Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Tria Rink in St. Paul for the Minnesota Wild season opener this evening. This is the destination for the morning skate, and the old Columbus Blue Jackets are in town with Mikko Nordo and Kevin Gorg for the first couple of segments. I'm Paul Allen. Welcome to 9 to noon. And joining us now is Minnesota Wild coach John Hynes into his first full season leading the charge. And it's great to see you, man. What's going on, and what do you like about the squad?
Yeah, it's great to be back and see you guys and get right into the swing of things.
Yes, sir.
I really liked camp. I think the guys had a good off season. You know, we had some objectives that guys wanted to meet individually and collectively as a team coming into training camp, and we certainly had that. We pushed them pretty hard in training camp, but I like where our fitness level is. I think we implemented some good structure. The guys seem like they're really grasping what we want to do. Mm-hmm. We look competitive. We look organized. I think the guys are hungry to play, so we're excited to get started.
I was going to ask why the morning skate is here compared to the X, and this could be permanent. But then I got a 10-minute tour of the facilities downstairs, and I saw the lounge area where they dine, and then the whirlpools and the recovery area and the workout space and everything. I mean, holy cow, the amenities here are terrific.
Yeah, it's great, and it's one of the things that we had talked with management about and talked with the players about, and I think there's a multitude of reasons. One, obviously, the facilities. I think for the weight room, the gym, the treatment rooms, the meal rooms are all great. We have a meeting room here where it's not just always done in the locker room like at Excel. The other thing is we get a little bit more ice time. If you have injured players, we have 3 goalies. Where, when you're at Excel, you basically have just a time limit on when you can skate, where now if we have guys returning from injury, extra players, third goalie, we can have as long as we want after practice to be able to give those guys real quality work. Mm-hmm. And then I think Excel's a great game rink. Then when you go to the game rink, it's smaller, it's tighter. Everyone's familiar with that area, but I think for the majority of what we do, this is a great setup.
Here comes KG, Kevin Gorg, Valley Sports North. Back in action this evening. What's up, Spotty?
Good to be with you guys. Coach, it was great to get to know you last year. And one thing you really never had from the time you got hired to take over this team was a full roster, a healthy roster that included your captain, Jared Spurgeon. How excited are you to start this process out, knowing that it's not likely going to be a healthy roster all season, but at least from day one, for your first time with this organization, you have a full squad?
Yeah, I think it's nice. As you said, it was really hit or miss when we came in last year halfway through the season, and now even just meeting with the leadership group yesterday with Kirill and Marcus and Jared, those 3 were never together in my time here, so it was kind of like just starting from scratch with that group, just the expectations and how we want to go about business with the coach and the leadership, the 3 guys that wear the captain. So it's nice, and I think obviously, as you know, when you have a healthy roster, we push the guys in training camp. Like I said, I think everyone's healthy, excited to play, and really get a good feel of what the complete team looks like as a group.
Let's take a look at October, because it's a strange schedule. 2 home games, which is great to start the year. Home opener, always fun to have it in St. Paul. But then the rest of the month, your hockey club's on the road. From a coaching perspective, what type of challenges does this present?
Well, I think it presents some good opportunities. Obviously, you get the 2 home games right away, and then we get on the road. And I think that sometimes the road trips early in the year, everyone's still excited. There's a lot of energy. There's the opportunity to get on the road a little bit. It presents different opportunities than it does at home. I just think more time together. You can do some more team things. I think the guys are able to bond a little bit more. When we're home, they still do, but guys have other responsibilities in their own personal lives when you're at home. So, I think we're excited. We're going to try to use it where we have some team functions, to be able to get together, spend some time together, but also playing our best hockey. And I think, to be a good team and a team that's going to be competitive down the stretch, you got to be able to win on the road. So we get a great opportunity to see what we look like there.
John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, on the 9 to noon show from Tria Rink in St. Paul. The Wild morning skate within the next 45 minutes to an hour. Then this evening, 7 o'clock on a KFAN, they start the season against the Columbus Blue Jackets. That one's at about 7 o'clock. Coach, eliminate stats with this equation. Take the statistical wherewithal from last year out of it. What's the best way to measure Brock Faber's skill set? Like what does he give you consistently, few are capable of?
I think one is his skating. His skating is a factor. We need it to be factors in the game in multiple areas. I think from a defensive perspective, closing gaps, ending plays quickly, not giving players a lot of time and space. I think his size and strength is also a factor. His skating from an offensive perspective is being able to get back for pucks, get us out of our own end, and then he's a guy that can join the rush and be a threat that way. And then I think that, the thing that impresses me about Brock is his willingness to play a strong two-way game. And he's got such great physical attributes. As I said, his skating, his size, his power, it's all, stronger than last year. And now really just continuing to grow his game, play a mature game. When offense is there, take it. And when he's in situation where he's called upon to defend, that he's a high-level defender for us against the other team's top players.
So with Kirill Kaprizov and up to tonight, is he going great guns? I mean, do you have him exactly where you want him into the season?
Well, I think Kirill's come back. He's excited. He's had a really good offseason. He's able to go home and spend time with the last 3 off seasons. I think he never was able to get home. So I think he came back refreshed, energized, excited. He's always in great shape. I think he's really pushed himself and helped push the group throughout training camp. So he looks good. I mean, he looks fast. He looks strong. I think his preseason games, he was putting in, I think the effort and the style of game that he needs to be able to, I think, help drive our team. So he seems like he's in a great spot. And I think, like our team, we got to go out and test ourselves tonight. And we're going to take the results. And then we're going to grow from it.
That's exciting.
I think depth at all positions is vital for any hockey team to have success. But to me, the most important position in the game is the one between the pipes. And you've got 3 good goaltenders to start the season. How important is it for you guys to give all 3 a chance to get a game here in the first couple of weeks to make this thing work?
Yeah, it is important. I think it's something that Freddie and I have talked a lot about. I think he's communicated well with the goalies. It is a little bit of a weird situation, so I think the opportunity to let them know when they're going to play, try to take the gray area, I think, out of their preparation of am I starting, am I not starting with 3 guys. You don't want guys to live in that gray area. So we're going to try to do our best job, as you said, to try to make sure we get guys some games early, let them know which games they're going to play. So I think that just try to keep the communication, because there's 3 guys, really clear. We've asked them to, as goalies, if there is any gray area, you're concerned about something, you're not getting enough shots in practice, they need to take the initiative too as players to make sure that it's a two-way street to make sure we handle this the right way.
When you started the conversation this morning with us on the radio, you mentioned how hard training camp was. Was a part of the depth of how hard that camp was, knowing that not only do you start the year with all these road games, but we talked about it yesterday after practice, 3 of your first 4 games, right, in this weekend, right? You start out fresh, no game legs, here we go, and we have 3 and 4. That's got to be a challenge for every player.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that's one of the reasons, I think when you start training camp, you always start with the end in mind. What does our team want to look like at the end of preseason? But you also extend that into the regular season. What's our schedule going to be like the first 10 days, basically? And so we pushed them. Like we had some days where we went, 3 days in a row hard. We went 2 days in a row, and maybe a lighter day the next day. They'll try to simulate some things and make it game-like workloads, game-like intensity. So we feel like we try to give ourselves the best chance to be ready for this, and now we got to let it fly.
John, have you found that now with a full year and heading into this full stride? I mean, this is your team. It was your team when you took over, but now it's your team through everything in the off season. Is it easier to coach, to convey thought with players? Now, I mean, you jump right into it, and I mean, you may hear things about players and how they handle adversity, how they handle prosperity, but you've now seen it, you've now touched it and felt it. Up to the season, have you put a lot of thought into that, and how different is it?
Yeah, it's very different. When you come in season, there are some challenges innate in that, where usually when you come in, something didn't go well. You're trying to really get to know the personalities of players. You had some successes, you had some not so much success stretches of the season, but as you said, you get to know the players, so you almost get off to more of a head start as if you took over in the off season, because you already have the relationships with the players. You've been able to set some expectations for the off season.
Yeah.
When you come in now, you're not installing everything new. There's certain things you build off of, and there's other components that you couldn't change in season that you may want to adapt. But you also have the time to be able to do it, work through it. Exhibition games where I think everyone's more in a a teaching, learning environment where when you get into the regular season, obviously, every point matters. So you want to make sure that you're not trying to change too much then. So it's been a big benefit to come in and know the players. They know me, and you're not starting from scratch.
And what about players policing each other? What about players policing the room? What about the leaders who do things within the room that coaches can't do or choose not to do? I mean, so you saw a lot last year, probably had a good time to decompress and think, you know what, when situations get like this, I know so-and-so will help behind the scenes. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's a great point by you. And it was kind of when I referred to meeting with the leadership group earlier that, I think you see leaders on the ice, you see guys in the room. But I think it's always challenging for any team when you have your captain and your assistant captain, at least in my time, basically not part of the team.
Great point.
So you see their personalities, you see how they are in practice now. Like you're starting to see, okay, I know some of the other guys that were in the lineup with us, their leadership qualities and who does what. But now you're getting to see two guys that are obviously, your captain and your assistant captain, and two veteran players that are really valuable on the ice, but now you're really starting to see what they bring to a team off the ice.
When you chat with your constituents, fellow coaches, or people with other teams around the league about Eriksson Ek, what do they tell you?
Well, he's a pain to play against. Underrated.
Yeah.
Pain to play against.
Right.
And
still underrated.
Yeah. I just think even when you look at where he is, I think he finished in the top 10 right in Selke the last couple of years, but. Yeah. I think he's even growing his game from an offensive perspective, and he's a guy that drives the other team crazy. But the way he goes about his business, he's not a flashy guy. He's quiet. He's not a big publicity guy. Mm-hmm. But when you watch the guts of his game, he's one of the hardest players in the league to play against.
Last couple for the coach, KG.
What are you expecting tonight? This was always going to be an emotional game with just Dean Evason coming back to Minnesota, facing his old team, opening night. All the juices were going to be there. But we talked about it with you yesterday. You had a great relationship with Johnny Gaudreau, their best player, that tragic loss in the offseason. Wow. There's going to be a ceremony tonight. Both teams are going to be, I think, heavy-hearted when they hit the ice, even with the emotion of this being an opening night game. What are you guys expecting?
I think it's going to be exactly what you said. It's going to be emotional. I think, if you take the home opener in general, the building's usually buzzing pretty well, and both teams are absolutely excited to be able to get going. I think when you look at, Johnny Gaudreau's situation, like you said, I think during that time, it's always, I think that's going to be an emotional thing for hockey for a long time, particularly in the NHL, and people that have been, know Johnny and Matthew, or people that didn't even do it. It's just, even when you think about just the situation that happened still to me today, that they're no longer here in a tragic accident. So, but I think, usually once the puck drops, and the game gets going and the crowd gets into it, it's going to get right back to, an opening night game that usually has a lot of emotion. Both teams are going. There's going to be good things that happen to both teams. There's going to be scattered things that happen to both teams. And, you're just looking to make sure that you're making, more plays to win the game than they do.
I'm not trying to be callous here, but I mean, fairly speaking, a head coach has so much with which to deal up to any game. Forget the home opener or the season opener, any game. I mean, you can't concern yourself with whatever vitriol or whatever revenge factor somebody wants to roll into a game because they were dismissed last year and you happen to be the one to take over. I mean, that's something you can't coach against, but you can't really think about either, right?
No, it happens. And, I've been in the league now, 10 years, basically, 9.5, 10 years, and it happens. I mean, you look at the different ones, right? Sheldon Keefe's going to coach against Toronto, right? The opening game over there, you had Lindy Ruff versus Sheldon Keefe, so two guys that replaced each other. It's just part of the business.
Yeah.
I coached, my second game here was against Nashville.
Yeah, that's right.
So I coached against New Jersey, so it's part of it. It's not about the coaches. It comes down to the players. The players want to play the game. It's a player's game.
Yeah.
Just coach your team and be ready to go.
That was awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good luck, too, okay?
All right. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks,
John
man.
Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, hooking Dean Evason's Columbus Blue Jackets this evening. Kevin Gorg is here for the first part of the radio show. The producer is Eric Nordquist. Max Fuller guides the great ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN, and I'm Paul Allen. It is a Vox in the Box of sorts from Tria Rink in St. Paul, and courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon will include Vikes Bites with some Vikings conversation at about 9:35, 9:40. Russo Radio at 10 o'clock. Wild General Manager Bill Guerin about 10:30, and old friend Alex Stalock, former goalie for the Minnesota Wild, joins us at 11. Welcome to 9 to noon and season opening festivities for the Minnesota Wild tonight at 7 o'clock right here on KFAN.
And real quick before we go to break, the fan and two men in a truck want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword BILLS at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword BILLS. Enter it now at KFAN.com. Get ready to laugh the night away when comedian Russell Peters heads to Treasure Island. Don't miss this hilarious and unapologetic comic when he takes the stage in the Island Event Center on November 29th. Tickets are on sale now, and you can get yours at TICasino.com.
Kevin Gorg at Gorgomatic21 via Twitter, Miko Nordo, and yours truly, Paul Allen from Tria Rink. I mean, it's a Vox in the box. We're not in the penalty box. It's Paulie on the perch. I mean, what do we do? We don't really need to have a name for this, do we, Miko?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because this is Billy G's. This is the GM perch here.
And by the way, how are we living the last couple of weeks? Wolves opening day training camp.
Yeah.
Glenn Taylor's suite overlooking the practice facilities. The suite did endure an expansion.
Yeah.
And then when I asked media relations guy Aaron Freeman on the radio, why'd you guys expand? Because of the ownership bit? That didn't go over incredibly well, but that was a beautiful perch.
Long season, we'll get past it.
And now we're Billy Guerin gave us the general manager's perch overlooking Tria Rink, basically at the 50-yard line. We're at the red line.
Yeah, not that we love change, but
This
we can
is
adapt
nice.
to it. And
Yeah.
just like the Wolves rolled out the red carpet for us a week ago, very similar fashion. I remember the producer does not get people to park his car for him,
Right.
those sorts of things.
Right.
This is kind of a first-class situation
It was sweet.
taking place.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you can just leave it here. And
Yeah.
I was like,
How
"What?
easy
Huh?
was it to pull into that ramp?
Do you need my keys? It was super easy.
Well, honestly, off the emailing and texting, I started hyperventilating yesterday at 2 o'clock thinking I was going to miss the show. And I'm like, damn, this is easy, man.
Change is tough. I'm telling you.
Tripping
It
out.
is, but get to be our age. For PA and I'm telling
Yeah.
you, from working with him for 2 decades at Canterbury, neither one of us does real well with change. This is a great spot here.
though.
Honestly,
This is catbird
you're going to love
seat
when
for
practice
real.
starts. This is a cool.
And a little bit, we got the sounds of hockey mic back.
I
Yeah.
see that.
I see
So that's
it.
back in place. So we have aura. We have
beautiful.
vibe.
We're going to make the best of this.
Beautiful. I mean, FIVA, Fairness and Vox in the Box Act. You know, when and I don't even know if you know this, but the aura of Vox in the Box at the X kind of was lost when former Wild member Ryan Donato went to shooting at the hole for the $100. So pissed off he's no longer on the Wild or whatever. I mean, he's hitting Brian Ralston like bomb after bomb after bomb, and
It's loud.
And the glass got a little chip in it. And Miko and I didn't see the chip, so we left.
We didn't say anything.
And then right before, who did he play for then? San Jose, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, then right before the game against the Sharks, somebody's like, it's like the Chiefs and Chefs Snickers commercial or
Great.
whatever. Just like,
Googly, oogly.
what's happening to this glass here?
That was the end of the end.
Yeah, so picture
yeah.
the equipment guy,
Yep.
like, they threw the upright
Yeah.
at Vandy in the river. So you got city workers having to
Yeah.
dredge for a freaking upright, and then you have the
Yeah.
equipment guy that's like, well, hold on, I had tomorrow off.
Yeah.
Well, similarly, I know right guy who cleans the ice and handles business.
Love him.
The teams are going out to skate, and he has to go replace a plane of
Yeah.
glass just before puck drop.
Game was 6 minutes delayed because of Vizzle in the Bizzle.
Abbott took the $1,200 bill, though, so we're good.
Yep, for sure. So, not having the players shoot at the hole for the 100 and chatting with them and stuff like that. It maybe it had run its course. But anytime they want to do a Vox in the Box or Paulie on the perch here from Tria Rink, you make available the general manager's perch, and we will be here home after a home game because these accommodations are nice. Now, having spent a spring and summer with you at Canterbury Park, and the closer we get to Viking season, we start talking about the purple. The closer we get to the Wild season, we start talking about the Christmas colors. So I'm just going to lay this out off things I heard you say at CBY Track Flack near the end of the Canterbury season. What leads you to believe the Wild is a playoff team?
Well, the core of the team is the same that we saw the 2 seasons prior to last. Last year, with all the injuries and the debacle that the start was, they had an underachieving season. But the 2 years prior to that, they were a 100-point-plus hockey team with a lot of the same players. And they're fully healthy right now. I think they're a better hockey team now than they were even a couple years ago because of the addition of Brock Faber and what he brings to the blue line, the development of some of their young goalies. I think Gustafson's sitting on a bounce-back year. He had a tough year last year. The numbers will tell you that he's capable of going back to where he was 2 years ago, where that save percentage was .931. I'm not saying it's going to be .931, but last year it was sub-90, and that can't be this year. And I think he's more fit. I think he's more focused. I think for a young goalie to get that first big deal for any young hockey player, it's a challenge. And I think playing with Marc-Andre Fleury is awesome off the ice, but playing on the ice and trying to keep up with some of the unbelievable acrobatic saves that he makes is not something he can do. He's got to get back to who he is. He knows that. He's worked on that during training camp. And don't think he doesn't know that Jesper Wallstedt is still here and looked great in the preseason. Competition at this level is always a good thing, and with the health of this hockey team at all positions, there are players knocking at that door.
With Fleury, is it going to be, like, do you anticipate when you guys go on the road, like, what's the first road game where?
Well, this weekend, we go back-to-back, so you're likely going to see a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury in one of those two games because you play home.
No, give me the destination.
At Winnipeg Sunday.
Okay, so do you anticipate when you get to Winnipeg, it's going to be a pregame, here's a rocking chair and a bouquet of flowers, this is Winnipeg's way, this is Manitoba's way of saying goodbye? Okay.
No, I don't, because he's publicly come out and said specifically that's not what he's looking for.
Well, right, but I mean, the other teams have a right to choose to give it.
They do, and I think if it's a place like Pittsburgh, Vegas, where he played substantial games, I think that has to happen.
Yeah. All original six cities should not care what he says and just do it. He's hockey immortality.
I understand.
The original six bits.
And I adore the man. I think you'll see it for sure in Pittsburgh.
But it'll be those personal connections.
Yeah, the connections and where he's been in the community and played for the team. I think that's where it'll happen.
So with that said, 3 goalies on the roster right now, Gorgie. How do you manage that in terms of, Wallstedt just gets that 2-year up, so we know he's with us and he's going to be with us, and that's great. But at some point, there's going to be a guy that hasn't played in a week and a half and 2 weeks. And that makes me think of things like when Fleury went on that run a few years ago, Talbot's on the bench for 2.5 weeks, and then you try to go and have him come in and win an elimination game against the Blues. Well, how do you manage 3 goalies on an active roster and make sure that everyone's getting reps?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that can't be Jesper Wallstedt. He can't go a couple weeks without playing in a game or games. He'll have to get a weekend down in Iowa with that club.
So is that how you do it? You just bounce it then?
You see how it plays out. I think you're going to give the incumbent, Philip Gustafson, the chance to start a bulk of the games early, and he'll have to play well. If he struggles, then you're going to give Wallstedt more games. I think with Marc-Andre Fleury turning 40 next month in November, that he's not going to play 60 games this year. He's likely going to play 25 to 35 games. So you punch that in, and you know what you're going to get, and it's going to be good. The rest of it is up to Philip Gustafson and Jesper Wallstedt. And I think that competition is real, and I think both guys get that. But I think you want your youngest of the goalies to get plenty of game time. And so I think in the back of their minds, they're going to see how the weekend plays out. But I look at that game in St. Louis on Tuesday. That'd be a perfect place to give the youngster his first start of the season. I think you want to give all 3 guys a chance to play off what we saw in training camp.
Is what's different about the Western Conference? Like, is Colorado absolutely a team that can get to the Cup? And I know we have McKinnon cred here, so the answer probably is yes. But like, is Vegas going to kind of clomp and plod along and then put it together when it's money time? Edmonton, obviously, with the high enders and what it did last year. The LA Kings seem to surge a little bit. Like, what do you think of the Western Conference?
A lot of it's the same. I mean, if I look at the Western Conference, you can really almost on paper say the top 6 are going to be tough. And you look at our division specifically, those top 3, starting with Dallas, who's the Cup favorite in the West, moving to Colorado and Nashville with Bruno, with the moves they made.
And Darby.
And Darby, bringing in those 2 40-goal scorers in Marcia Show and Stamkos, already having guys like Yossi on that blue line and Brady Shea. Like, this is a damn good hockey team.
Is Granlund still there?
Mikhail Granlund, there you go. So, I mean, you look at that club, and you look at the high-end talent they've brought in, and you look at those 3 in this division, and someone has to drop back for a team like the Wild to jump up. Now, I do find it interesting that, and again, it's early in the season, but Edmonton, the Cup favorite in Vegas, lost at home last night, 6-0 to Winnipeg. Colorado gives up 8 at Vegas, and I get it. It's the first week of the season. But I think the one thing you're going to see is parity. And in the West, there's not a lot of room for error. I think Dallas is clearly the team to beat in the West. But I think after Dallas, there can be some real movement back and forth. And I think this hockey team, the one we're going to watch tonight, if they stay healthy, has the potential to be in the top 3 in the division, to win a playoff round. Even though we're still a year away from everybody saying, okay, those contracts are gone. This is as healthy as they've been and as good as they've been on paper in a long time. And I think this hockey club is ready to take that step. I think they're all ready to be done with training camp and ready to be done talking about last year.
From your experience of chatting with coaches, general managers, or players, like a situation tonight for Dean Evison, I mean, Evison, I shouldn't say absolutely, but I mean, there is a chip to be played this evening. These guys didn't want me. These guys fired me. These guys changed my life. Blah, blah, blah. You know, granted, there's some culpability that should be had on his side, but that's not going to work in a pregame pep talk. So, like, does he use that as motivation, or is it just kind of built in?
He doesn't say a word. I think the players all know it, and I think they want to go out there and get that win for their coach. I think they've had an emotional training camp. They're dealing with a lot more than just getting their legs ready for a hockey season.
Right.
They're trying to get their hearts and their heads right, and they're hurting. Like, they're a hurting hockey team. But if you think they're going to march into St. Paul tonight and not give the Wild their absolute best, then you're nuts. Like,
but they just might not be that good, right?
The Wild are minus 240, which is a significant number, but it doesn't matter when that puck drops. You're going to get their absolute best. The Jackets, that's the only thing I know tonight is you're not going to see a drop-off in their game. Now, if Minnesota comes out and plays their very best, it won't matter. But, again, opening night, as John Hynes adroitly pointed out, you're going to get some good, and then you're going to get some bad. It bared out the scores last night.
Yeah.
You get some awkward results that first week of the season, and so I hope the training camp pays off because, you know, listening to guys like Wes Walls and Ryan Carter, who we watch practice with every day through camp, these guys played for Jacques Lemaire. They played for coaches that won Stanley Cups out in Anaheim, and they both said, my goodness, this legitimately has been the hardest camp they've seen. And so I think that matters, and I think the team realized how hard the schedule was to start the year here in this first month, so I think they are ready to take the ice and set that tone.
KG, Kevin Gorg, side rink analyst for Bally Sports North. We have the Wild and the old CBJ this evening. It's the Lid Lifter at 7 on KFAN.
What do you think the uphill battle is, talking about the Blue Jackets strictly from a hockey standpoint? I mean, the tragedy that took place over the summer is nothing but sadness, and that's part of what this team is probably going to battle and have to overcome over the course of this year. But strictly from an on-ice perspective, Dean Evison, he's working with that group now. They were the worst team in the East a year ago. A lot of work to be done for them. Do you think Dean believes he's up for the challenge, but is he?
Yeah, Dean can bring people together. You know, watching his time in Minnesota, he's an excellent hockey coach, but behind the scenes, Nordo, he is really good at getting everybody to buy into team first. And I think that's going to be a good thing for a team like Columbus. Now, the challenge they're going to run into is their goaltending, if you look at it on paper, is average at best, okay? They don't go out and win hockey games for their team. And the problem is the way this team is built, they're not going to be able to outscore anybody. So they're going to have to play really sound team defense. And what I mean by that is the tragedy with Johnny Gaudreau, your best offensive weapon. You let Patrick Laine go to Montreal. He's gone. Boone Jenner starts the season hurt. You don't have a lot of offensive weapons. You brought in Sean Monahan.
Yeah.
He'll likely center their top line, but they don't have a lot of skill to take over hockey games. And you're going out there against guys like Kaprizov and Boldy and Eck and Zuccarello. So they can't win this game tonight outscoring the Minnesota Wild. What they're going to need to do is really slow this thing down and muck it up to beat teams. And I look for Dean's team to play emotional, physical, defensively sound hockey, but in a lot of nights they're going to be bringing a knife to a gunfight.
KG, so help get me / us squared away with like from a line situation, all right? Rossi will center Kaprizov and Zuccarello.
Correct.
And Eriksson X line will be Hartman. Who else?
No, Eriksson X line will be Boldy and Johansson.
Oh, geez.
They've got the sandpaper line, which I love, and that's Foligno, Trenyon, the big dog they brought in from Nashville.
Yeah,
with Hartman. Yeah, with Hartman in the middle.
Oh, wow.
That's a really fun third line that can pop and go out there.
Sandpaper line, though.
Oh, it's going to be fun. Yeah,
Who
and I
came
think
up with that
Rossi.
name?
Well, it's an old, hockey term for
like
lines that can muck it up and get in your face, cause all kinds of consternation. But that top line with Rossi really, I think during training camp took over. And John Hynes gave both those guys a chance to play, Hartman and Rossi. And I think you might even see interchanging throughout the regular season to jumpstart the team in different stretches. But Rossi's got the skill set. He can play with the creativity that I think fits with guys like Zuccarello and Kirill.
So the third member of the STEAM team, Miss Angela Herman, just sent us a text.
Yes.
STEAM team, spring and summer at Canterbury Park, spitting winners for you on a 3-day-a-week basis. Her question is, how important is it for Marcus Johansson to get like at least 18-ish, 20-ish goals this year? I think he had like 11 last year, right?
Yeah, tough year last year. And I had a chance to converse with him at the beginning of training camp, and he expressed his disappointment. He knows, like, he's not blind or deaf to all the different conversation throughout the hockey world, specifically here in Minnesota, about their disappointment with his play last year. He knows that.
Oh.
And so he's coming into camp.
So, like, the overall bit wasn't good, not just the goal scoring?
If he's going to play a top six role, you have to score more than 11 goals.
I see.
Like, the bottom line is that can't be what you produce. 20 would be acceptable, and he knows that. And he's in a contract year, and he has the skill to get it done. And if you look at that line, the way it is built, you know what you're going to get every single night from 14. X going to go to the net. He's going to create a problem, and now you got to be good on the wall. And Boldy and Johansson have the skill set to win battles down low off the wall and to use X to their advantage in front of the net. Johansson has to be better. He knows that. He will be. And you factor in a veteran player playing for a contract late in his career.
Yeah.
You're going to get his very best as well.
How is Lamar Jackson working out for you in Mad Hatters?
How's Lamar Jackson working out?
Is he a terrific? Like, I've never had him. Now, granted, I have 1 or 2 fantasy football teams max a year. I've never had Lamar. But then I've, like, seen games where I'm like, damn, sure would have been nice to have Lamar.
He's a cheat code because you're getting 2 players in one.
Right.
You get the running stats, which end up being like an RB2, and you get the quarterback stats, and he ends up throwing for 240 and 2 every single game. They seem to play high-scoring games in Baltimore, week in and week out, and he is unbelievable in fantasy.
How about that Cincy game?
Oh, was that fun?
Was it
Pinball
elite?
machine.
He'll outscore the he'll outscore the lost fumbles and the errant interception here and there. Yeah, Lamar's amazing.
I have 4 guillotine rosters. 2 with Lamar Jackson.
They're all alive?
2 with Jaden Daniels. This week they play head-to-head in what should be a fantastic game.
That's a fantasy
more
feast.
points.
I
Please, more
don't
points.
know who your adversaries are. You're minus 360 in each game because of that.
I love it.
I still, X amount of years into guillotine leagues, I still can't seem to get the waiver part things down right. Like I went in for 100 and change, 100 and small change on that Raiders tight end. Brock Bowers, is that the name? Yeah.
Stud.
So I go in for 100 and change on him, and then slightly less on Jamison Williams. I'm not even close. It's like I wasn't even close. I mean, it's not that
people
I
are
absolutely
spending
have to have them.
$380, $400 on some of these guys. I went on. I'm in the league too still.
Yeah.
I went in for $151 and was
on
on Bauer.
Damn, I went in for 101. See, that's where I just can't get this thing. I at what stage of the season do you ship in? Do you do it to keep players off other people's rosters? I'm just not real.
And the
crap
injuries right now are really creating, I think, a market where people are overpaying. When guys like Nico Collins are going to the IR, it's forcing the hand of people, and the tight end position in specific has been a disaster for everybody all year.
Well, let me tie football with your squad, the Wild. All right, so like Aaron Jones is clearly very important to Minnesota Vikings football, and during the course of the London game, he leaves, things change, and we're going to get into that probably 10, 15 minutes from now, some things that I saw unpacking the game. But like when you get Aaron, Packers fans or football fans will be like, okay, well, just be wary because he will get nicked up, miss time during games, miss 2 or 3, come back, play 5, be unbelievable. Can the same thing be said when it comes to being on the injury sweat with Spurgeon and Foligno, where you're just kind of in the back of your mind, you're kind of like, and Foligno plays so physically and so aggressively. Is that like kind of fairly in the back of heads?
I don't think the players think about it. I think if you're part of the coaching staff and the management staff, I think you have to as players get older. And you look at Jared Spurgeon and what he brings to the table. Every team the Wild play know his value. Mm-hmm. And, he's a player that plays at 5'7", 165 pounds. He's going to get hit. Yeah. That's part of that position. Yep. You go back to make a play as a defenseman, you're going to get hit. So that's something they have to overcome. And for Marcus Foligno, you're never going to change the way the guy plays. He pours his heart and soul into every game, every shift. And when you play with reckless abandon, which is what he does, and he's great at it, and he's a huge asset for this hockey team.
Big time.
That's the risk you have to run.
And he can score a little.
He can. That line.
Which is cool.
The way that line is put together, and I know their top 2 lines have to carry the mail offensively, but Ryan Hartman had an off year last year and still scored in the 20s. He can score 30 goals no matter what spot he is in. I know Foligno, and I know the type of game he plays, and I don't think Wild fans have got to know Jakob Trenjan yet. This guy is a hockey player. Joe O'Donnell has been, adamant in preseason training camp about this guy having the potential to score 20 goals. That's a line that can be dangerous, that are going to get great matchups because the teams are going to focus.
That's the fourth line?
That's the third line, and they're going to focus on Kaprizov's and Boldy's line. Yeah. Rightfully so. Those are the 2 star players up front for this hockey team. Mm-hmm. That third line is going to get great matchups against bottom defensemen in shifts where teams are tired after chasing the top 2 lines, and they can make some hay.
Well, was there any surprise at all from learned hockey minds? Liam Ogren made the squad?
Not really. He showed us a little bit of who he can be at the end of the regular season last year. He got to play the last couple of games, scored his first NHL goal out in San Jose. He's built like a top 6 player. Yeah. He can skate. He's a physically imposing guy. And what separates him from the average young hockey player, guys, is the way he shoots the puck. Like, this guy shoots the puck like a player that if he can keep growing and keep building his game, he could be a guy that could be a 20 to 30 goal scorer down the road. And people see that. And so I think coaching at this level, you want to have depth where there is some competition, and keeping guys like Wallstedt around, keeping guys like Liam Ogren around, keep the heat on the players to know that, listen, if we don't get off to a good start, if you're not playing well enough, we've got other guys we can punch in. And I think that's a good thing to bring out the best in this team.
Any college games you like this weekend?
I don't know how Minnesota isn't favored by more, and I would be nervous a little bit. They're at UCLA, at the Rose Bowl, laying 5.5 in a game where UCLA is not going to draw anybody, and Minnesota's going to bring a boatload of fans. I worry about the letdown. I get it. Your students storm the field. But I look at the way this team is playing right now, and a UCLA team that is just flat out bad, and I would definitely lay the points there. The other one that caught my eye is I think Oregon is getting more than a field goal at home from Ohio State. I just could never imagine a team the quality of the Ducks getting points. I'd have to play them on the money line if I was looking at some college football this weekend.
You mentioned UCLA. Now, do you play into the idea that they've played LSU, that they've played Oregon, they played that hot Indiana team, and then they I don't want to say they kept it close, but 2-score game at Penn State.
They actually played well at Penn State.
Their schedule, has kind of been a gauntlet. That and that letdown vibe. And
I worry about the letdown. And so on paper, it looks like Minnesota has a cakewalk here. And so I'd have to be a little careful, dig a little deeper into the numbers. But they've got something cooking right now. They played really well at Michigan, and that's carried over to the game against USC, yes.
I got an angle. The goal. So last time I remember field storming would be 2019.
Penn State.
Penn State, TCF Bank Stadium at that time. The next week, the Gophers were favored by 1.5 at Iowa and lost 23-19. So it was tight, but nevertheless, it was a favorite. It was a loss, so just something to keep in mind. Good seeing you.
Awesome seeing you guys.
Appreciate you, brother. And October 31st, we have a Breeders' Cup seminar at Canterbury Park, canterburypark.com.
Wear costumes for that.
Yep, I'm gonna go as Mendelsohn, and I'm just gonna sit way in the back, and just
Halloween night. We're gonna trick the tellers and treat ourselves to winnings all weekend long.
About 97 feet from the stage.
100%.
Come on now.
That's Kevin Gorg at Gorgomatic21 via the X Machine. He is side rink analyst for Bally Sports North. You can also hear the Wild and Columbus Blue Jackets this evening on KFAN. Not much time to mix in a Minnesota Vikings related conversation today, but the next segment, which is Vikes Bites, is one, so don't leave.
This is 9 to noon, live on iHeartRadio and KFAN, The Fan.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
All right, let's do Vikes Bites in multiple segments today, or pick it up whenever I rejoin the equation into the Lions week. But it involves the Vikings, it involves London, it involves the bye week, and some things that I shared yesterday when Mad Producer bum rushed me on a vocal maintenance day and called at 9 a.m. And now all of a sudden we're talking about the Vikings, and I had to dust off the cobwebs a little bit. But I started thinking about it more and put a fair amount of time into my version of tearing things down, but it would strictly be the second half of the London game. Like coaches, they tear things down for takes, talkers, tendencies, and tricks and things like that, and then they put it back together, and then for the final 12, they try to stay unpredictable. For yours truly, I had just heard and seen so much, as I shared yesterday with you. When Aaron Jones left, it became this.
Yep.
Which is accurate. But I wanted to get into some things below the surface as to like what happened to lead to this, offensively speaking, and Vikes Bites are provided by.
Yeah, Vikes Bites always provided by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. They're a Clearwater, Minnesota company. You can shop online, thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. Box of meat will show up at your doorstep. That's pretty sweet. Otherwise, local Coburns, local co-ops locations, and they're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics. So we really appreciate you, Thousand Hills.
A week from today, 9 to noon, undoubtedly, we'll be preparing for the Motor City Kitties, the Detroit Lions. Now, off the first 5, there's a question that's bouncing about in my mind, and I'm going to phrase it like this. Who is it they say Sam is? And I'm talking about Darnold. Who is it they say Sam is? And the reason I frame it up like that is because it covers who they said he was, who we know he can be, and who we, 9 to noon, or they, people who watch the games or follow the team, or maybe even those inside the building, who they believe he can be. And it's who is it they say Sam is? And I think it's a fair question off the first 5 games, and here's why. Because if it's who is it they say Sam is, well, the was part of the equation, which has been covered ad nauseum, would be who he was when he came into the league with the New York Jets, then played with the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And the who he was would be at times jittery, quite frequently inconsistent, somebody from like the inner workings of the league. All right, somebody people would say is rather easy to trick. It just needs a little time. So you don't like pop out from behind a tree 2 minutes into the game and go boo, and then he's done for the rest of the game. That's not the case. It takes a little while to set some things up, but at certain times of his career, there was a label on him that was kind of under the cover of darkness that Sam's rather easy to trick. And we haven't seen it through the first 5, or let's just say most of the first 5. So now that's the who is it they say Sam is? Well, that's who they said he was. All right, well, who is it they say Sam is? You can say National Football League Offensive Player of the Month for September. That's who he is. Well, that now is who he was because they played a game off that and headed into the bye, but that's part of the equation. The league-leading touchdowns through the month of September, league-leading touchdowns inside the red zone, inside the 20 through the month of September, league-leading completion percentage inside the 20 and inside the 10 during the month of September. That led to him becoming the NFC Offensive Player of the Month. Who is it they say Sam is? Now, I referenced this yesterday with you in watching back the second half. Not immediately when Aaron Jones went down in the first half, but just there were things that changed in the second half. And after the game, after we got our buses back to a London-based hotel, it was kind of a clip, and so therefore it's later in the evening. Lieber, Bursich, Hockey, and I, we find a spot by the hotel. We go out and have some Nacho Lieber and have some snacks and stuff like that and start talking about the game. And we're getting hard into the game here, man, in the first 5 because there's some euphoria to it. But there also, for learned football minds like those who played Lieber and Bursich, there also are some things they see that rubes like me or those listening don't see quick twitch.
Yeah.
All right. And Ben brought something up where he said, when the Jets rushed 4 guys, okay, 4-man rush, dropped 7. So some things changed, all right? And that's pretty much all he said. And so then on the flight back to a certain extent when the Wi-Fi was good enough, but when I got back, I started watching some of those plays when the New York Jets, with a very good 4-man defensive front, Javon Kinlaw, the demise of Javon Kinlaw has been greatly exaggerated. My man's back, and he changed a play, too, that led to an interception. Then you have Quinnen Williams. He's high-end stock. They got this Will McDonald, who everybody just keeps telling me is Unique Ngakoue, and he's super fast, doesn't have any moves. Cool. I saw him stuff 2 runs, and I saw him close on plays with speed better than Unique Ngakoue. So they're wrong with that take. He's better than Unique Ngakoue. He's part of a 4-man defensive line for the New York Jets where they blitzed a fair amount in the first half. Aaron Jones was in the game. Aaron Jones leaves. They go to a 4-man front a majority of the game. It jacked things up. So we're going to start right there. And this is a conversation that will continue next week. That there was a play, as I referenced yesterday with Nordo. Darnold went on an 11-step drop. Okay, so you have 3-step drop fire, 5 fire, 7 fire. My man just kept backpedaling, okay? Yeah. And he was waiting for Addison to run by corner Isaiah Oliver. And it was a route that took quite some time to develop, which is another part of the conversation. Now, Addison ran by Oliver at about the 50-yard line. But see, what got me was Sam, when he was looking around, knowing that's the preferred spot he's going to go, if you back up that far and you're not under pressure, 9.5 out of 10 times, you step into the throw, you fire.
Yes.
What we've seen from Sam Darnold a majority of this year. But like his leg slipped one time, then he got his feet, it went to a 9-step drop, he's looking around, it went to 11, legs look awkward, and it was an arm throw. He just stood there, he threw the ball about 35, 40 yards simply with his arm. Sam has an amazingly strong arm. But he didn't step into the throw, and he just like an arm throw, and it was incomplete. By the way, Addison got by Oliver, and if he steps into that throw, that is a touchdown. So this is one of those, the play was there, the protection was good, why are we slipping, why are we arm throwing?
Yeah.
I can't answer that. I can't answer it, but it was a 4-man rush with the Jets doing a lot of stuff, and this was the beginning of it, a lot of stuff on the back end to try to trick Sam Darnold.
I'd say it was the first time in a vacuum, and ultimately through 5. I love the way that you kind of built that up. What September was is in the rearview mirror. In a vacuum, it was the first time all season where I truly felt like Sam was not confident in what was going on, what was in front of him,
right,
and what he was truly seeing.
Yes.
And so it's that trick. It's the subtleties of what happened, even from the first half to the second half. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the offense was piling up yardage in the first half, but it still felt like there was some stability there.
Yeah.
But by when you're able to rush 4 and drop 7, there were moments where Sam would intuitively find himself to the boundary for good runs. He would find that second or third read option. There was a little bit of there was not a little bit. There were several moments where it's like, for the first time all year, he wasn't 100% confident.
So we'll land the plane on this for now, okay? So after that play, Darisaw takes a false start. Now it's 3rd and 15. Well, the Jets, with this 4-man rush, and Kinlaw can't get around Blake Brandel. Okay, Brandel did a phenomenal job, but Kinlaw is playing so fast, he jumped at the right time, and he impeded Sam's vision. Well, that led to an interception. Okay, so Darnold has to move. He has to do something so that he can see down the field because it was a terrible pick.
Yeah.
And it was reminiscent, rushing 4, dropping 7, somebody supposedly you can trick, somebody who got off kilter. Like I told you yesterday, it wasn't as much about what the Vikings were doing or not doing sans Aaron Jones. It's the change Ulbrich and the Jets made that confused the quarterback. And there's more on this. I have more to share on this, but when we return, Russo Radio to commemorate and to analyze the Wild season opener this evening against Dean Evison's Columbus Blue Jackets. That's around the corner on KFAN.